Hello everybody and welcome back inside the box for another episode of Gunpla Kitbash with me, Kukamatsu. In this episode we will get over the hurdle of starting a brand new project. So, let's jump right in. Okay, it's time to get going on this guy. Normally when I start a new project like this, I go for the most difficult part first. I guess because I'm excited about it, I want to put most of my energy into the more difficult parts. But sometimes I am feeling like that's a bit of a blocker to starting the project because I know that it's going to be the hardest part. So when that happens, and that's kind of what's happening now, I try and do something that is a little bit easier, simpler, just to get me started on the project. So that's what I'm going to do now. I want to have this more black in here and make this whole transition more elegant, so it doesn't look like a mechanical color piece. It looks like part of the panel. So to do that, I definitely don't want to inhibit the ability of the head to move around. It doesn't have a lot of up and down anyway because of the chin piece and that part there, so I don't think that's going to change a lot. It'll be about at the same level. So as long as I don't go above that, I should be okay. So now the question is going to be, how do I get this thing on and off? That's a separate part. Looks like that is all one, this piece here. What I definitely want to keep an eye on is just the interaction between that and these pieces here. I might trim that out a little bit, create a nice channel back there that is a bit more deliberate. Let's see, either that or I'll fill it in more. Maybe I'll fill in from there to there, just make it a little bit wider. Won't create any more things to get in the way of the chin, but just give it a little bit more beefiness on that side. Maybe that's the way to go. Okay, it's a little bit tricky. I was thinking of just thickening this piece up here, but that is going to be needing to slide into it, so it'll have to go over top. Okay, it is an interesting problem. I wonder if I put that on first. Can I put that in? The piece definitely needs to go on first, and then that one slides in from the front. So what I'm thinking of doing is cutting off the collar completely, clearing out that space, and then replacing it with panel parts that will be then attached to the black part. I can maybe just do a nice smooth piece up. I don't even need this transition here. Okay, well I think that's what I'm going to do. Might as well go for it. I'll definitely have to also trim this down a bit as well to be able to get the black part in there later. We'll clear out this whole area and just give some space for the eventual panel. I'm going to try and keep this cross member here because it gives structural strength to it overall, but otherwise I'm going to cut it out. So let's just go for it. I'm going to cut straight down there and then across there. I think I might as well just trim these parts off front, and then I'll have to trim that back. These nice heavy-duty clippers are super handy to have for this kind of quick trimming out. Well, that cleared it out a lot, but I think that might still be in the way. Basically want this panel to go straight back to there. I'm not going to cut that structural piece off yet. I'm going to see if I can keep it because I think it's going to be helpful. I will trim it back a little bit here like this, just to get some of that vertical stuff out of the way. Just trimmed it back so the structure still exists there, but it just gives me that space to work with. Okay, we have the space cleared, so I just need to find a piece of styrene that's going to fit in that area. Okay, well I have some of this styrene sheet, and this is 2 millimeters thick, so I'll go ahead and cut out a piece that's going to fit in that shape. As you can see, I'm not really measuring per se, I'm just trying to fit it, cut a little bit, fit it again, trying to get it working. Put it in place like that. Basically need to cut where that angle already is. Worried about my fingers on there, so I'm going to use some locking forceps here. Just get my fingers away from that blade in case it slips. These things work very well as clamps too when you need to attach something temporarily. Sometimes they work that way. Getting this centered on here is the trick. Okay, that's starting to get there anyway. The key also I'm noticing is that I need to leave that space between there and there so that the front piece can slide in there. That'll work out quite nicely, I think. Just gotta make sure I don't accidentally fill that area up with glue, because then I'll have to end up digging it out after. think what I'm going to do is, I'm struggling to get that angle perfect right now, but I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and tack this in here and then solve any problems of fitment after. Basically want to end up filling up all of these gaps here anyway, so this is not the final edge by any means on the sides. So it'd be better to just get it in there, get it secured, and then figure out the angles and everything once I do that. And because I need to be careful not to fill that gap underneath, I'm going to be very conservative and slow. I'm just going to tack this on very carefully. Looking pretty good. Looks like I didn't get any glue underneath. That's a good thing. So now the goal is to fill in this whole area, make it nice and integrated into that shape. First things first, I got to fill in all those gaps with super glue. Going to do a little preliminary filing with the big file. You can see I still have some filling to do in there, but I think it's looking overall pretty good in terms of the shape. Do some work on the V shape that we have here. Let's get this working a little nicer. I might just make that round actually. Nice. Just to make the integration a little bit better, I'm going to trim back these guys a little bit just so they come straight down. Pretty interesting to make this shelf here work, which was probably designed on an earlier kit, because this collar piece is quite commonly used between some of these kits. They've actually trimmed out a hole in this part of the panel, and I actually think that would look better if it's closed. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this piece off, and then I'm going to close up that hole over here. See how that looks. So I still want to have the shelf a little bit because it is helping everything align, but I just want to cut off this front part of it about there, I think. Yeah, I think that's going to work. It's going to be a slightly fiddly job to fill that hole, but I think that's going to be better. We'll just get a little piece of styrene here. Okay, so the bottom part of this still has to sit on that little ledge that I trimmed back, so I'm going to cut it back pretty far, but not too far. Something like that. And then I want to go across in that sort of general area. Okay, we have the basis of that hole filled. Seems to fit all pretty well in there. Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot better. It looks so much nicer to have that little hole filled in. The one last thing I also want to do is just remove this little detail from the front, this little inset detail. So I'll fill that with some super glue as well. Definitely some cleaning up to do on there. I'm going to start with some 120 grit sandpaper. Just use this soft sanding block. Okay, now I think I have the shape working pretty well, and it's just a matter of cleaning up the scratches from the previous 120 grit sanding sponge. So I have a number of other ones to work with here, a 240, a 400, a 600, and an 800, and I'll just go through those one by one, getting finer and finer as I go, and then find the final surface. All right, I think that's looking pretty cool there. I think ultimately I will paint this gray part black, so it'll all kind of blend together, and it'll just be a little seam line right there. But overall, it's fitting pretty good, looking pretty nice. Pretty happy with that. If you've seen my previous series, you'll know that I will paint this gray at some point to just make sure that all of the little surface imperfections are taken care of. But I think I will save that for a later stage in the build. I kind of like having being able to see the work that I've done as I go, and at the end I'll do the gray paint and the final touches. There it is with the head on it. I think that's looking pretty cool. Definitely makes it a much more sleek shape, less mechanical looking. Pretty cool. Thank you very much for watching. That is the end of this week's episode. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like on your way out. It really helps the channel. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.